I think sometimes we're all a little bit hypocritical, but in my experience in life, nobody can be more hypocritical than parents. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Rico the Acronym, and it's time for another Rico's Rants. Today, I got this one today. This one's for the parents, but it all started from something I saw online. I saw that Monique, the comedian, seems to be having some issues with her firstborn, or I think her oldest son. And apparently he's come out and said some things, and I didn't actually look too far into what he was talking about because I figured, classic like Hollywood kid mom stuff, like I just figured, he probably felt neglected or something like that. But what I did see was her response on stage, and it seems like she kind of tried to take her issues with her son and kind of make a joke out of it. And the joke wasn't really funny.
My grandbaby called me and told me to watch this goddamn TikTok of your son. And I watched that shit. She said, I want to tell you something. I said, ma'am. She said, F that nigga. And when the elderly people tell you, F that nigga, you ain't F that nigga. She said, Monique, I'm 80 years old and I got a son 60 years old. He still tell me how f***ed up I was when he was 10 years old. F that nigga.
And so when I heard that, it brought me back to a lot of things that I've heard, friends of mine go through, even heard in my own household when I was younger. The whole idea of like, you're supposed to get over stuff. It seems like the elders that we have out here think that there's like a time limit or something with wrongdoing. Like, if you did me dirty, or if I have an issue with something that you did and I never got closure from that, it doesn't matter if it happened 50 years ago, 60 years ago. It doesn't matter. And the whole idea of like, I don't have to apologize to my child, you need to just get over it, is extremely damaging, especially in the black community, because we have a lot of passed down generational trauma. And we're doing our best to break the cycle. You know what I'm saying? But when we don't think of the idea of like, I may not always have been correct as a parent, that seems to be a very new concept to a lot of people. Now, I'm not going to go into how hypocritical it is of Monique to be having these issues with her own family while espousing all the stuff that she espouses about relationships and family and all this other stuff, because let's not forget, some of the stuff she said in that interview with Club Shay Shay, some of that stuff was very much on point. We're talking about accountability. We're talking about people doing each other, wrong or right. A lot of that stuff had a lot of credibility to it, but we also know a majority of that stuff was like her personal beefs with people. So, we're not going to talk about that no more, though. The main thing I want to really get out to people is, parents, please stop believing that you don't have to apologize to your kids. Showing your children that you also have the ability to be wrong also allows your children to learn from you with your wrongs. And let's be honest, there is nothing that makes sense about the phrase, do as I say, not as I do. It makes no sense, because what that does is that passes that down to the next generation, because now doing wrong or doing something that you don't want your kids to be doing is now something that is not unattainable. They just have to get old enough to do it. So you're not really teaching the lesson you think you teach it. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest, kids are probably the easiest people to get forgiveness from. Like, that's not saying they just forget stuff real easy, but kids are pretty forgiving. Like, if you're actually willing to admit you're wrong. Because even kids know, we teach, I'd say a lot of us like to, teach kids accountability pretty early. You do this and it's wrong, there's a consequence. There's some sort of consequence. I don't know how you discipline your children. I personally don't have any children, which I'm sure I'm going to hear a lot about in the comments. Oh my God, how can you tell parents what to do? You don't even have any kids. Well, you know what? We were all somebody's child once. And I know what I didn't like then, that as a 35-year-old, I still don't see a reason for why it happened, so I still don't like it. Now, some of the stuff that happened when I was younger, I didn't like back then, but as I got older, I realized, okay, there was some reasoning behind this. I'm kind of glad this happened now. But there's other stuff that was, at the end of the day, it wasn't cool, and it was kind of abusive. So, you know, but unfortunately, I don't have the ability to call my parents and go, hey, I have an issue with this. I have an issue with this, which, as a person in my position, is damaging. It is damaging. There's certain amounts of closure I'm never gonna get from my parents. I'm gonna have to just find it within myself, which is a lot harder. A lot harder. But those of you with the ability to circumvent your kid having to go through that shit, please do it. Like, do your kid a favor, do yourself a favor. And go ahead and knock that shit out, man. Go ahead and get that apology popping. And you may not know what you did at first. Why don't you ask them? You know? Even if they're not mad at you, just be like, hey, was there anything you did as a kid, you know, that that you still kind of got, you still a little sore about? There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not saying like start problems at dinner or anything like that, but just be willing to be wrong. Be willing to be openly wrong and apologetic for it. Because it's the apology that matters. It's the apology that matters. It's not the fact that you was wrong and now the people are mad. Like, no, it's just the ability to take accountability and go, okay, I messed up. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do to make this right? These are things that mean a lot to children. Even when they become adults, it means a lot. And that's really all I can say about anything, man. Get at me in the comments. Let me know, how you deal with your kids. Are you apologetic with your kids? Do you wish your parents were more apologetic with you? And, like, subscribe, do all the great stuff. And I'm going to see y'all next time, y'all. Peace out.